Lead pass for Eggenberger to McShane, onside across the blue edge, and Tulio, he scores! Here's Robertson back the other way. He's got Paquette with him. Robertson drags, shoots, and scores! It's Sarah Noel with Matthew Franch. Noel to Franch, he shoots, oh, his shot, he scores! Cross ice pass for Clark. Tracks it down into the Oshawa zone. Clark, slap shot, scores! Brett Newman back the other way, shorthanded for the Generals. Newman to McLean, loose backhand, what a stop! McShane shoots in the corner for McLean, centers in, Tulio fires, blocked, rebound, scores! Passes to Soloviev, waits, doesn't take the shot, deals Koski, shoots, scores! Grima on the near board, shoots! Rebound, Cole, shoots, scores! Generals win the draw though, here's four forwards, passes, Tulio shoots, scores! Tie! Tulio! Tie! Game in Oshawa! It's 2-2!
August is almost through, but we've got more OHL voices for you. Today I'm joined by Oshawa Generals play-by-play man Callum. Callum has been a good luck charm for the Oshawa Generals, joining the club during their 2015 Memorial Cup Championship season. And if you've been paying attention, they've been pretty competitive ever since. He's also a sportscaster at Sportsnet 590 The Fan and 680 News in Toronto, and the manager of social and branded content at Uninterrupted. Callum, nice to talk hockey today.
Well, now I feel stressed. I have to start with a poem or something like that to come in, Josh. Like, that was a great start. I don't know what I'm going to do now.
No expectations. It's all good. You got 6 OHL seasons under your belt. You've been to the rinks, experienced some exciting moments. What's the overall experience been like, and what are a few of your highlights?
Well, the easy highlight for me is my very first season. You talk about being a good luck charm. I was just thrown into the driver's seat there to do the play-by-play for the Generals for the 2014-15 season, and they managed to make it all the way, of course, to the Memorial Cup final. No thanks to me, and they won in overtime. So that has to be the highlight for me. I mean, there have been some great General seasons, some great players since then, but I mean, my first season, my rookie season in the league, I remember the other play-by-play people giving me a hard time saying, wow, you're never getting back there again. Like, I mean, good luck. And I felt like a rookie actually in hockey, where they think, oh, I'll come back next year and then we'll do it again 2 years from now. So, that was a highlight for sure and something I'll never forget.
Tell us a little bit about how you got here, what sorts of ventures you've undertaken in the past, and maybe what sort of goals you have lined up for the future.
Sure. I mean, like anybody, I'd love to do play-by-play in the National Hockey League or at a professional level. I'd love for this to be my full-time day job. You mentioned that, of course, I do a lot of other things that I love to do as well, but I'd love to do this full-time in the National Hockey League. That's first and foremost. Beyond that, however, though, getting here, I always loved play-by-play. When I was a kid, I remember stealing my mom's Walkman and sneaking into bed with the headphones and listening to Calgary Flames games growing up, listening to Peter Marr on the radio until my mom caught me. She'd obviously be able to hear it or, look for her Walkman and come in to take the radio away from me. So I think the fascination was from being a young person and really being captivated by the live story on the ice that play-by-play is, and hockey's such an exciting sport. So that really drew me in growing up in Calgary. And from there, it hasn't been a direct path, of course, but I found my way to doing this, and I'm really happy to be here.
Well, there's so much going on in your life. We mentioned being on the radio and of course, calling Generals games. I've got to think you're pulling some pretty crazy hours.
No question. I mean, the thing about sport, right, is that you're doing it all the time, weekends, evenings. If that's not for you, then sport isn't for you, right? So you have to be out there, especially during the hockey season. You're working 8, 9, 10 days in a row. You're working all hours of the day. You're getting in off bus rides very late, having to get up very early. So you have to really love it. And if you do, then you'll do the things that you need to do to get better. And if you don't, then other people find other paths. But I've had no problem with it. But you do have to be prepared for sure every hockey season to go the distance.
Of course, you're the voice of one of the league's historic franchises, one that brought us Bobby Orr, Eric Lindros, and has won a league record 13 Robertson Cup titles. I think the Generals do a great job showcasing their history and alumni, and I'm sure it's been neat for you to see some of those old names come through the Tribute Community Center now and again.
Oh, there's so much history for the Oshawa Generals. I've had some personally very interesting stories meeting these hockey heroes for a lot of people around the world. And just the way that the Oshawa Generals, their players, the staff, the fans carry themselves has really stuck out to me. You know, there's a way that you behave when you're in that building. There's a way that you treat other people. You know, it's a once a general, always a general thing. Everybody who's ever played for the organization, whether they played hundreds of games or whether they played a few, is welcome back in that building. And people treat each other with a lot of respect in the organization, which I really love.
The Generals came off making a trip to the Eastern Conference Championship Series after that thrilling upset of the Niagara Ice Dogs in the second round of the 2019 OHL playoffs. And then this past season, they came out like a house on fire. They won 9 in a row and ended up with a 31-26-5 record. I'm sure a lot of fans out that way were pleased to see the Oshawa-Peterborough rivalry alive and well. And, of course, GM Roger Hunt was busy, you know, adding a big name like Phil Tomasino there mid-season. Maybe put the 2019-20 season into words. It was another successful one for the club.
It certainly was, and it felt like when the season was canceled, disappointing for Oshawa Generals fans. I mean, we all had bigger things to worry about for sure and still do, but you know, from a hockey perspective, I think there was disappointment, chiefly from the players. They really felt that they would have gone the distance or been very threatening in the playoffs. So I think there is some disappointment there for the Generals players, of course, the fans as well. But I mean, the real theme that you have to take out of it is GM Roger Hunt. I mean, going into the 2019 playoffs and then this season before it was cut short, he's really made some deals. He's moved players around, and the Generals, again, they've been one of the more active groups. So I think from an off the ice perspective, from a hockey operations perspective, it's been really fun. Doing my job, it's fun because, you know, you get to see what are the Generals going to do this season? Who are they going to field? Is Phil Tomasino, a player like that, going to come in? So that's the takeaway for sure. I mean, there's disappointment for the players, but in addition, there's also some excitement for the fan base as things change.
The big vision in Oshawa right now, of course, is to serve as hosts for the 2021 Memorial Cup presented by Kia. The Generals and the Sioux Greyhounds, the two clubs bidding for that responsibility. And as was mentioned, last year's edition of Tomasino was certainly with that goal in mind. Just this week, the Generals brought in 2001 born forward and Hayden Fowler from the Erie Otters. And though a couple of reliable vets like Brett Newman and Kyle McLean are moving on, it looks more and more like Oshawa will be contending in the Eastern Conference this season.
Yeah, I think Phil Tomasino certainly is the question on what happens in his hockey career, how our timing lays out. Of course, there's so much unknown right now, but yeah, there are still some fantastic players in the lineup who have really developed through the organization. Ty Tullio really comes to mind as a guy who has come in and was impactful right away, but as he's grown through his short OHL career, really been able to become a really impactful player very early on. And he's an example of what the Generals try to do. I know every OHL team tries to do it and says they do it very well. And there are certainly a lot of OHL teams who do that in a great way. But I think the Generals try to choose wisely and then with those players try to develop them. And that's why you see the year after year success. And listen, it's hard to do that in this league. It's very competitive. And the players, of course, at their age are developing themselves. And there's a big difference between a 17-year-old player and an 18 or 19-year-old player. So it's been fun to kind of follow that and see the Generals able to do that with the hard work that goes into it.
They've certainly been consistent, as I mentioned off the top, continually a competitive team year in and year out. And I think that's what any owner or any general manager, would want to see from their group. Now, I work for the league, but that doesn't mean that I don't watch the games and enjoy certain elements of a team. I find myself a fan of Oshawa's Blue Line, just a group that I found to be mobile. They skate well, but I think uniquely they play with a lot of sandpaper, and they were able to make those stops and turn the play around quickly. Guys that maybe didn't get a lot of attention, like Will Ennis or Mitchell Brewer or Nico Gross. In the case of the first two guys, that'll probably be important pieces of the defense core moving forward.
Oh, there's no question. Will Ennis is one of the strongest players I've ever seen in junior hockey. And he doesn't get a lot of talk because he doesn't score as often as you would like him to, or I think that he would want to. But he's one of those guys, he doesn't have to, right? He makes the stops down in the defensive zone and really causes problems for the other team. And so it's guys like that are fun to watch. They work really hard. We talk a lot on our broadcast as well about Giovanni Vellotti It feels like every game he's out there, he's blocking a shot. He's taking a stick in the face. This poor guy, something always happens to him. But you talk about sandpaper, and he's a tough kid, and he gets back out there and after getting bumped and jostled around and plays really hard. So defensive hockey, I love it. If you're a hockey head, right, you love the defensive side of the game. I'll take a 1-0 game every day of the week. Like lots of fun, great goaltending, lots of good, smart defensive plays, and the Generals definitely have that.
Well, it seems the Generals are all in for 2020-21. If there's one element of last year's group that maybe in your observation needs improvement to make them a bona fide Memorial Cup contender, what do you think that would be? I mean, one thing I noticed, well, just combing through the stats, is that the Generals were kind of a slow starting team last year, but as games went on, they gradually kind of took control, outscoring their opponents by a considerable margin in third periods. Was there anything to that you noticed or anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, that's a good point, I think. And I think the coaching staff would agree. I mean, they feel a responsibility to get the team to start games on time. I know it's a cliche, but, I think it's on the players as well. I think they would have felt responsible, both the coaching staff and the players, to, being ready for certain games. I mean, they are amazing in second and third periods throughout the season, but you don't necessarily want to be chasing games, especially if you want to go in a bit of a run, right? And make sure that you can go as deep as possible into the playoffs. So I think that's a fair point for sure, and something that you can fix more easily, maybe compared to having a personnel difficulty or a hole in your lineup, just being ready to start games. And I know the players talked a lot about that in the room and figuring out how to be ready to go have that intensity, because I mean, there's some incredible second and third periods, right? And they were a lot of fun to watch and be a part of. But I think the players, while knowing that they have the capability to do that, would prefer to start the game with a little bit more intensity and then not necessarily be chasing it down the line.
Unique but exciting circumstances when you're entering a season with a team that is clearly setting the bar high like the Generals are. As we've learned, though, it'll be another 3 months until we get back to action, with the OHL setting its targeted start date for December 1st. What do you have planned for what looks like will be a quieter fall?
Well, first and foremost, as a play-by-play person, it's great to have the extra preparation time, right? That I will take. Usually you hit the summer, right? And you take a little bit of recovery, obviously, to catch up. You're usually burned out by the end of the season. So you get back to it, and then you kind of mid-summer, and you want to enjoy a bit of the summer and do some prep here and there. So I'll definitely take the extra month or two to get really comfortable with the other teams, their lineups, their histories, that kind of thing. And really get back into it. I mean, as soon as the weather starts to turn and starts to get cooler, really feel like it's hockey season. And I mean, I've missed it. It's been a while since doing a game. It was mid-March when we stopped doing it, roughly around there. So I miss it. I miss being around the players. I miss being around the organization. But more than anything, yeah, I mean, I'll just be doing some prep, trying to sit in my living room here and practice some games, try to get to that mid-season form, so I'm not really scrambling and terrible when December comes around, and just use the extra time for prep and enjoy it, and just be thankful that we're healthy or relatively healthy, and the people around me have been able to stay healthy, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's the plan so far.
Well said. Well, we're going to have a good run at the 2020-21 season. Callum, thanks for joining me for another segment of OHL Voices. Enjoy the warm weather, and we'll see you back at the rink again real soon.
Thanks, Josh. Hope to see you soon.